Trick's in.
Alright, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to our DSR guide. This is going to be for Phase 4. We'll be including Rewind as well. And basically, we're going to go over this step by step, same as we always do with our previous guides. Although this will probably be shorter of a video compared to the ones before, because this phase is a bit more straightforward. Keep in mind that this is LPDU Strats for the European data center. And so a lot of this is going to be used in EU PF. You can also use it in your static, but it's also used in NA. This really isn't very different compared to NA. There's a few differences though with the lineup around the eye, and the prio is a little different. So just know that this is LPDU method, and for your data center you'll have to look. For example, Aether, they have APD. You'll have to check there and see that they do it differently. It's going to be strictly LPDU. And if you guys would like to join LPDU, it's down in the description below. Without further ado, let's dive into the video. Alright everyone, to just kind of simplify this, I decided to make a quick rate plan to explain what the debuffs are. You just killed an Alninio and you're entering this phase and you have both the eyes. What do you do? So, first thing you need to know is the group will stack over here towards the south side of the map, because you will all be receiving these debuffs here. Well, debuffs, but essentially you need to receive these. You will stack on top of Alphino. Alninio is going to be in the middle. What these do is these allow you to actually damage the eyes, so you really want these. What's going to happen is as soon as you receive the debuff, the DPS are going to go towards the west eye, and the tank and healers are going to go to the east eye. Alright, so that's the main thing you're going to do at the beginning. And just so you know that eventually, after some time passes, we'll explain the debuffs and I'll go over step by step with my POV. But firstly, just know the debuffs. If you have this debuff showing, if you take damage, it damages the left eye. Now, left eye meaning east eye. This is in the perspective of Alninio looking south. So, it's the left of Alninio and the right of Alninio, who will be in the middle. So, if you receive damage, it damages the eye. But, if you receive damage and you have a blue tether, it will heal the right eye, west eye, basically. This one right here. And so you want to avoid receiving damage while having the blue tether, and you want to receive damage when you have the red tether. And you'll know immediately what tether you have because the debuff will show, as well as a tethered you'll have like a tether around you, and you'll know exactly what color it is. And so basically, this is just the beginning of it. And now we'll go to the toolbox and I'll showcase my POV to kind of help explain this further. I'll showcase both POVs for DPS and tank, so I'll show both sides. Okay, so here's the LPDU toolbox. You can find this in the description down below. You can see this is the blue eye and the red eye, and essentially the first thing that's going to happen is 4 people are going to be tethered with one color and the other 4 are going to be tethered with a different color. The main thing that you want to do here is, based off the color you have, you will go to the center and receive a particular tether that you need. Essentially, if you are a melee, in the beginning, you want a red chain. If you are a ranged, you want a blue chain. If you're a tank, healers, since they're going east, if you are a tank, you want the red chain. And if you are a healer, you want blue chain. Okay, so let's say you don't receive the thing that you want. What do? You go to the center. Everyone that doesn't have the thing that they need will go to the center, and it's an automatic swap. Because treat this like Nisi. If you're in contact with another person who has a different colored tether than you, it will change. You'll have their colored tether. So essentially, once you get your colored tether, you'll go to your positions. This is what you need to do here. So as you can see, they group up middle. They take their tethers if needed. if you already start, let's say you're melee and you already start with the red tether, you're gonna immediately go out to towards the golden ball on the left here. Now there's a golden ball here and here, west and east side, and on top of both the eyes, north and south of them. What you're gonna do is you're going to pop the golden orb once it expands, and then you're going to basically walk into it and soak it, essentially. So I'll showcase this in my in-game POV as well for clarification. But essentially, first thing you want to pay attention to is grab the tether you want. Then you're going to run towards your position. Fizz ranged are going to, the ranged DPS are going to stand like this. R1 being up here, R2 being down here, H1 being up, H2 being down here. And of course, main tank is going to go here with off tank with their red tether, and they're going to pop the golden orb. Once they pop the golden orb, the main tank will go north to swap the tethers, and the off tank will go south to swap the tether with the scholar. The melees are going to do the exact same thing, okay? So here's how it goes. Just know that the melees and tanks are popping the gold orbs, and the ranged DPS and healers are popping the blue orbs. So here we go. Once it expands, you'll see the golden expansion, and then you're going to walk in, and essentially you're going to soak it, then swap tethers, and then go here, and then the ranged and the healers are going to pop their blue orbs just like so. Boom. Once that expands. And so now you've done this part. Now I'm going to show you in-game POV step by step how that was done. Okay, so here's my in-game POV of this. As you can see, we're stacked south, and here is how it's gonna go. Basically, there's gonna be just like a little RP section here. You're gonna see, you're gonna walk here, you're gonna get that buff that I mentioned in the beginning. And you can see in the buffs, it lasts for 1 minute. This allows you to damage the eyes. Now, you wanna make sure that the left eye, aka, we're just gonna refer to it as East Eye from now on. The East Eye, you have to at least drop it to 40%. You don't have to do excess damage to it. Drop it to 40% HP. And then when the Mirage dives happen later, since we mentioned that being damaged when having a red tether damages the other eye, this is the main thing we care about. So, firstly, you're going to have a bleed, so you want to heal that through, and then Hatebound is going to occur. And as you can see here, I have a red tether, so I immediately go in front of the gold orb and I get ready to soak with my other melee. Now remember, it has to be with your other teammate. The same thing happens with the tanks. I will showcase the tank POV as well. But just to clarify this, okay? You can see here, the Dragoon has a blue tether, which means the Dragoon is going to go in the center and get his red tether. Everyone's going to end up with their tether that they need. Now, once you see how the golden orb expanded there, I'm going to showcase this again. See, the golden orb is small right now. It expanded right here. And it expanded again. This is where you pop it. Pop. Now, because I'm M2, I'm going to go south and swap with my R2. You're going to swap, and you can see you're going to get this debuff right here, which basically means you've swapped it, and then you cannot swap to another tether for 2 seconds. So during this time, even if you run into someone that has a different tether color than you, it's not going to swap to them. You are safe to run through. So I just run here. I let my ranged DPS pop blue orb, just like so. And then I walk into the center of the eye to continue DPSing. And the tanks as well come here. And basically the tanks and melees are being in the center right now. And the ranged DPS, the summoner, the caster and the fizz range, they can damage the other eye if needed from the distance that they can be, to make sure that the other eye is at least 40% HP. This is the crucial part. You can see the other tank also joins us here. I'm going to showcase this now from the tank POV. Alright, so here it is from my Twitch VOD. I'm playing as a tank. This is my reprogging with tank, so I'm sorry if I don't play optimally here. I'm not a tank main, but I do the mechanics as shown here. First thing I do is you have to make sure... You have to make sure that you have your tank stance up, and each tank has to take one eye. So as a tank here, I go on the left eye, and the other tank has the other eye, and he has aggro on it. You don't want a tank to receive two damage. 2 basic attacks damage, basically. It's really rough. So here we go. Once I see my tethers, I see that I have a red tether, so I'm fine here. I can just continue DPSing, and just like so, pop that, take it, move here, and now they also pop, just like so. It's the exact same moveset that I showed when I was melee, and as you can see here, I'm doing as much damage as I can to drop the eye to 40%, and that's pretty much it. It's the same concept, same idea, just a different place. Okay, now for the next part here. What's gonna happen? So now we're at a point where the melees and tanks are all in the center of the blue eye, and then you have the ranged and healers basically standing like so. So you have R1, H1, H2, R2, just like so, from north to south. And we're going to use from north to south, whoever gets hit by Mirage Dive, there's going to be a swap order, okay? So let's say, for example, in the beginning here, the Dancer and the RDM both get hit. Essentially, the tanks are going to be taking first. So if you're a main tank, you're going up. If you're off tank, you're going down. Since you're group 2, you're going to go on the second most south. And if you're the main tank, you're grabbing the first one that's north. Same thing with melee. If you're M1, you grab the first north that's hit, and if you're M2, you grab the second most south hit, okay? So, that's essentially the beginning of this. Just keep in mind that all the dives are basically done looking north. One thing to keep in mind here is if you're healer and DPS range, only the healers might have to flex north or south most. The white mage, for example, is always taking the northmost dive, unless the dancer also gets dived by the Mirage Dive. Scholar is always southmost, unless RDM also gets dived. So keep this in mind. You want to use this from north to south priority and who's taking. The order of taking is tanks take first, melees take first, and the first 2 people that got dived, they're the ones who are going to be moving. Okay, so here we go. Now we have an example. White mage and RDM get dived. The first swaps will be tanks, so the main tank will take white mage, and the off tank will take RDM's tether. White mage and RDM walk into the center of the eye. Keep in mind, everyone here has blue tethers. Next up, it's going to be the second swap, which is melee. Dancer and Dark Knight get Mirage dived. M1 will take Dancer, M2 will take Dark Knights. Finally, the last swap is the first set of dives that happened. As we know, it was the White Mage and the RDM. And in this example, the White Mage will take the northmost, and the RDM, he's group 2, he will take the second. Now, if 2 members from group 1 get dived on, like we said, the White Mage would have to flex. So, in this example, I'll go back just for clarification purposes, okay? Just for clarity. Just know that White Mage is always northmost unless the Dancer also gets dived by Mirage Dive, okay? This is important. Because yes, White Mage is a group 1, but there's someone above him. So that Dancer gets the priority for northmost, and they take that. But in this example showcased, White Mage and RDM get dived, which means since RDM is group 2 and White Mage is group 1, White Mage is taking the northmost by default. RDM takes the second most south one by default. And that's essentially it. After that, after you take the third dives, there's going to be another Mirage Dive happening here, and no one will take that. You will simply wait it out, and at that point, boss is dead, well, the eye is dead. And here, usually, if you get the eye to 40%, especially now with the DPS check with patch 6.5, this eye is already dead at that point. Especially if you drop it to at least 40%, you can just continue damaging this eye as long as this other eye is 40%. The Mirage Dives will do the killing, basically, since, like we said, if you're being damaged by if you have a red tether and you're being damaged, it will do damage to this eye by default. And so that's pretty much the phase. Now I'm going to be showcasing this in the in-game POV. Okay, so here is now the full showcase for this. Basically, once we finished with the tether swapping and the blue orbs are popped and all that, now we wait for the Mirage Dives. They're going to start coming. You want to make sure that just before the Mirage Dive happens, the melees and the tanks are in the center of the eye, and then you'll see there is the Mirage Dive. 2 people got hit. In this case, H1 and H2. Tanks are going to go and swap tethers. The healers walk in. I, as melee 2, go on the most south, so I take this tether. There's going to be another 2 set of dives. Here, the white mage who got hit will take this one, most north. Sage is taking most south since they're group 2. And just like so, it's taken. Last set of Mirage Dives happen here. No one needs to take these. Only 3 swaps need to happen in total. After that, there's going to be a cast called Steepen Rage, which is like a raid-wide, but we kill it here before it actually goes through, and that's pretty much the entire phase. Next up, we'll talk about Rewind, which really isn't that complicated. We're going to go over it here. It is literally exactly the same as before when you did it in phase 1. The only difference is there's going to be LB. So here we go. As soon as Horschiffon shows up, here, the moment he shows up is exactly the time you want to use Tank LB. Okay? Because here you're going to have access to Tank LB3. So once Horschiffon shows up, he will show up in the most... he will show up in south of the map, basically, on the 1 marker. He's going to show up right here. And he's going to start running over to the middle of the arena to basically block the spear. Okay? So as he's blocking the spear, the Tank LB is used. Okay? And you'll have the tanks use mitigations on the melees. So as you can see here, I have mitigation, I have the Paladin's intervention, and the Reaper, in this case, has Corundum. So make sure the tanks discuss who's giving who what. And after this, pretty much, it's the exact same as P1. You're gonna do the exact same movements. Just make sure that we heal Horschiffon. We need to make sure that Horschiffon stays alive. So you want to make sure you heal him. And if you have White Mage, it's even better because you can use Benediction. But as you can see, Horschiffon is totally fine here. We just do damage to the spear at that point. And just like that. As long as you kill a spear before Horschiffon dies, you pretty much go to the next phase. If Horschiffon dies and loses all his HP, it's pretty much over. So that's pretty much the entire mechanics. The next up will be Wrath of the Heavens, Death of the Heavens, which will be in our next video. So that's pretty much it for the eyes, as well as the rewind, which is fairly simple. And I hope this guide helped out. Make sure you guys check out our previous phase guides. Next up will be Wrath of the Heavens and Death of the Heavens, which will be interesting since it's one of my favorite phases actually in DSR, especially because of the music. It's awesome. And DSR is my all-time favorite ultimate, so I love it so much. I can't wait to get into it and tell you guys all about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, nothing is true and everything is permitted. Peace out.